Get ready for a clash of titans. We have Wesley So against Fabiano Caruana in a crucial high-stakes blitz game from the 2019 Norway chess tournament. Let's dive in. So opens with knight to f3, and we see a very standard opening. Both players develop their pieces quickly, heading straight for a classic King's Indian defense structure. The fight for the center heats up. After Caruana castles, he strikes with pawn to e5. The bishops come out to play, with black's knight jumping to g4 to challenge white's bishop. The strategic maneuvering continues. White's bishop drops back, the d-pawn pushes forward, and Caruana reroutes his knight while staking a claim on the king side with a pawn push to h5. White is building a solid position, but this next move is a slight inaccuracy that lets some of the pressure off. The stronger try was pawn to h3, immediately controlling the g4 square. After knight to h6, pawn to f3 solidifies the center, then pawn to c5 challenges white, and bishop to f2 completes the plan. But in the game, Wesley So castles kingside, and this gives Caruana a bit more breathing room. Black's knights continue to reposition, and then Caruana strikes in the center with pawn to c5. So captures en passant, and after black recaptures, the central pawn structure is clarified. Now we see a battle on both wings. White expands on the queen side with pawn to b4 and a4, while black counters on the king side, pushing the f-pawn and developing the queen. The heavy pieces join the fray. Both rooks slide to the d-file, and white prepares to break through on the queen side with a pawn push to b5. White pushes forward, but this pawn capture is not the most accurate. It lets a serious opportunity slip. The best move was queen to c2, keeping everything under control. After rook to d7, king to h1, rook to b8, and pawn to a5, white maintains a solid advantage. Instead, in the game, So plays pawn takes pawn on c6, a move that could have been punished by a tactic winning a piece for black. Caruana recaptures with his knight on c6, but he misses the winning idea. The chance is gone, and So immediately punishes the mistake with knight to d5. A brilliant sacrifice that completely turns the tables, creating a powerful passed pawn and opening lines for a devastating attack. Caruana accepts the sacrifice, bishop takes the knight on d5, and So recaptures with the pawn, establishing a monster-passed pawn in the center. Black is under immense pressure and needs to find the right response. This next move, however, misses the critical idea. The essential move was pawn takes pawn on e4, breaking up white's central control. After queen takes e4, knight to g5, queen to c2, and knight to e7, black is still fighting, but instead Caruana plays knight to b4, which allows white to ramp up the pressure even more. So seizes the initiative, swinging his queen to c3 and tightening the screws, and another slip from black with rook to b8. It looks natural, but this move walks right into a stunning game-winning tactic. There it is, bishop to b5. Wesley So's second brilliant sacrifice of the game, and this one wins material by force. Caruana has no choice but to accept. The rook takes the bishop on b5, and pawn takes the rook on b5, the only move and a great one. The point is now clear. White's rook is coming over to the a-file to win more material. Black's queen recaptures the pawn on b5, but it's far too little, too late. White's attack is decisive. So executes his winning plan as the rook lands on a7. After a pawn trade, Caruana invades with his queen to e2, desperately trying to create some counterplay. But here, a moment of imprecision from So. Rook to e1 is played, giving black a small glimmer of hope. Queen to f3 was much stronger. Caruana's queen probes the position, landing on d3, but So responds calmly with queen to c7, keeping control. And what a fantastic defensive find from Caruana. Rook to f8 is the only move that holds the position together. The brilliant idea is, if white plays queen to c4, knight jumps to g5. And after queen takes the knight on b4, knight to f3 delivers a check. But So makes an error. Knight to c4 lets the entire advantage slip away. The simple queen to c4 would have maintained a clear edge. In this chaotic position, Caruana immediately blunders back with knight to c2. This is a huge mistake, as it allows white to trap the queen, So has a golden chance to win the game right here. The correct move would have trapped black's queen. The winning move was knight to b2. After queen to d2, rook to d1, queen to e2, and queen to c4, the black queen is trapped, and the game is over. But incredibly, he misses it. Instead, So plays knight takes the pawn on d6, throwing away the win and allowing a dangerous counterattack to begin. And Caruana pounces, launching his counterattack with bishop to e3. The position is a whirlwind of tactics. So's next move is another inaccuracy, and now the game is completely equal. The stronger move was rook to a8. After bishop takes f2 check, king to h1, knight takes d6, and rook takes f8 check, white would still be in the fight. But after the move played, bishop takes the bishop on e3, white's position collapses, allowing black to win the exchange. And Caruana finds the brilliant shot. Knight takes the rook on e1, a fantastic move that wins material. And here's the point. After queen to c1, knight takes the pawn on g2, knight takes f7, and knight takes the bishop on e3, winning a full rook. Wesley So is on the ropes and must find the only move to survive. The pressure is immense. The only chance was queen to c1. After knight takes g2, knight takes f7, knight takes e3, and knight to h6 check. White is still hanging on. But he misses it, and plays knight takes the knight on f7, a decisive blunder that should have lost the game on the spot. Caruana finds the correct continuation. Queen takes the bishop on e3 with check, starting a forced sequence that gives him a winning material advantage. White's king steps aside to h1. The position is completely lost, and black just needs to be careful to convert the win. Caruana has a completely winning position. A simple, calm move here would secure the victory. The winning move was queen to d2. After knight to h6 check, queen takes the knight, rook to a8, and rook takes rook. Black is simply up a rook and cruising to victory. But in a moment of unbelievable, tragic blitz-induced blindness, he plays queen takes the rook on a7, a shocking blunder that throws away a completely won game. So cannot believe his luck. Queen takes the queen on a7, and in a shocking turn of events, white is now completely winning again. Caruana recaptures with rook takes knight on f7, but the fight has gone out of the position. White's queen and passed pawn are unstoppable. So plays the calm queen to g1, getting ready to consolidate and convert his decisive advantage. Black's position is hopeless, but the next move only speeds up the inevitable loss. A slightly better try was knight to d3. After queen to b1, knight to f4, queen to b8 check, and rook to f8, black could have offered a little more resistance. But after the move played, knight to c2, the end is now very close. White presses the advantage with pawn to h3, and after some maneuvering, swings the queen over to a1, preparing the final blow. The king steps to h2. A minor slip, but it changes nothing in a completely winning position for white. Caruana is just trying to survive, but this king move doesn't help his cause. He had to try rook to f2. After pawn to d6, king to g7, pawn to d7, and rook to d2, he could at least make white work for the win. But instead, after king to h7, the game is all but over. And there goes the dagger. The pawn marches to d6, and that runner is going to decide the game. Black's final move is rook to d7, a last-ditch effort in a hopeless position. White will have no trouble converting from here, and that's the game. Wesley So wins. What a wild, back-and-forth blitz battle, full of brilliancies and blunders, ultimately decided by a tragic mistake from Caruana in a completely winning position.